All right, welcome everybody to another session of Lab Live. My name is Bill Allen. I'm your guest with Evolve Lab. Today I have with me one Mr. Handsome and Daring Marcelo. Marcelo today is going to be talking about practical VR. There's a lot of hype in the industry as far as what to use, how to use it, whether it's HoloLens or HTC Vive, and we're really going to be talking about virtual reality specifically. And Marcelo is going to be talking to us about these practical uses for it. What I want to do is introduce you guys to Marcelo. Marcelo is the BIM director and technical evangelist at John A. Martin and Associates. He manages and implements the research and development and the marketing of BIM, Revit, structural design software, and visual programming for the entire firm. He creates 3D digital content beyond contract documentation. I think that's super awesome. He also creates 3D real-time pre-rendered animation, the use of real-time physics, and the use of game engines for a variety of tasks. He trains and educates designers, engineers, clients, and basically anybody that wants to be learned up. He also creates tools and add-ins to improve Office BIM tools, efficiency, structural design tools, including Revit, Dynamo, Grasshopper, Rhino, Tekla, Stingray, SAP, ETABS, RAM, Reset, and many other software. Marcelo has won first place top speaker spot 12 times since 2012. 12 times. That's a lot of times. So really good speaker and a good friend of mine. You can find his podcast, simplycomplex.sharedcoordinates.com. If you haven't checked it out, please check it out. With that, I want to welcome Marcelo to the show, and we're going to kick things off with a little poll to understand how much everyone's use a VR headset. So with that, we'll take it away.
Yep, the poll is asking how many have used the VR headset. So you guys can go ahead and check box that if you've used the HTC Vive, the Oculus, the VR Mobile, or if you've never used VR before. And you can check box multiple of those. So go ahead and check box those, and let's see who's all have used these different devices, the HTC Vive, Oculus, or VR Mobile, or if you've used all of them, preferably not simultaneously. I think that would be pretty challenging, but hopefully you guys have used these individually as individual units before. So everyone is voting. Looks like we got still going. Says that about 31% have tried the HTC Vive, 43% have, let me make sure, 43% have done the Oculus, 60% have done like VR Mobile, like a Google Cardboard, and about 24% have never used VR before.
Okay, that's good to know. That is good to know. Now, let's break it down one more time. Can you run the next poll, Bill? This is good. So it looks like only about a quarter have never actually tried virtual reality. So of you, 75% you have seen that it's completely immersive, and it's an experience that you can't quite describe. So I mean, I know I'm going to be showing virtual reality on the screen, and you can't quite get what I'm seeing, but it's good that you at least understand or at least tried some kind of virtual reality in the past. All right, can you run the next one, Bill? So this is good, but I want to weed out some of the times when you've just been seeing tech demos. We've got another poll here. Go ahead, Bill. You can run this, and I'll get the other things set up here.
So the next poll is how many of you have used VR for work? Yes or no, or use it in the name of work, but you're really just goofing off. Like you guys are playing some first-person shooters, or you're teleporting around a building that you're saying you're doing visualization on, but you're really just goofing off. So we want to know, is that you are using it for work, you're not using it for work legit, or you just like it for the cool factor? And it looks like we got about 51% have used it for work, 37% no, 13% of you are just goofing off with it, and those are the ones that are being honest. So that's what we have with the poll.
Cool. That's good to know. So it looks like 50% are using it for work. That's good. That's really good. Okay. So I didn't expect those numbers, but that's great. Okay. So some of this stuff's going to be reviewed for the 50%. but I imagine you're going to see something new here, which is what I like to do with virtual reality. Is I like to skirt all of its possibilities, and I think you're going to see some possibilities that you probably never thought of before using virtual reality. So let's just first talk about visualization, and that's something we always hear about, and that's something the industry is hardcore focused on, and it's very mature. So let's just go ahead and do that. And there's a lot of products out there that do this. Basically, you have your modeling environment, whether it's Revit or SketchUp or Rhino, you have your environment. In this particular case, I opened up. Can you see my screen, Bill? My Revit model here?
Not yet. Let me see if we can make sure we get you showing. The poll might have. There we go. Now we see you. Now we can see.
You see me? Okay. Great.
Yep.
All right. I have a bit of a structure bias, so a lot of the examples will show structure, but this course could be applied really to any discipline. All right. So you have your modeling software, whatever it is. In this case, I'm going to show Enscape. Enscape's a great product to get you in and out of real-time visualization, as well as virtual reality. All you do is basically first get yourself a HD Vive or an Oculus, and then you can click this button here, which is Enable, and then go ahead and fire up Enscape. And then if you have the Vive, you can kind of see behind me those are one of the sensors up there. There's another one in front of me that just kind of triangulates my position. And then I've got two handhold. Let me move this window. I've got a lot of windows open here, Bill. Hold on one second. All right, and then I've got basically the controllers, and you just turn them on so that the bases can see them. That is really that's basically your hands, and then the headset is actually your eyes. So you can see I've got the headset here, and then it just tracks in real time. It's just like gyroscopic motion. Okay? I mean, this is probably stuff you all know. But what's really nice about this is you can kind of get in and out really fast. So let me get this on. All right. Can you see me again? No problem.
Yep. So
all right. I might be.
So we got Revit on the left,
around.
and then we have Enscape on the right. So that's what we can see.
Okay, great. All right. So you've probably been walking around the conferences and you see people doing this, and so this is nothing new. But what's really amazing is of course everything's in real time. What I like to use virtual reality for and real-time rendering is actually quality control. So with the controllers, you can you're not only looking through the model, but you can also quality control it. With using these pads, you can actually kind of fly and float around. We don't have time to go over the other products out there, but there's Iris out there. I saw that Anna's on the line there too. They make a great product for visualization with Revit and with SketchUp and Rhino. And then Enscape just added a beta version for viewing your SketchUp models. But basically, you have this amazing environment to do a lot of your visualization with. So what we'll do in the office is we will actually go through and we'll build a model. And then when it's done or when it's in production, we'll go through and use virtual reality for quality control. A lot of times with virtual reality, you teleport a lot. And the reason you teleport a lot is because when you actually move around, you can actually get quite dizzy. I thought, no, I wouldn't be able to get dizzy, but you actually do get quite dizzy. So you have to teleport around quite a bit. Of course, you can walk around as well. But so what we do is we look around the model and we try to find issues. And I actually found one right here. It looks like this kicker beam is actually too low. So there's a few things you can do now. You could, because you're completely immersed in virtual reality, you can't see anything around you. So you could have someone working with you and you can tell them to fix that. Or you can rip off your headset and then you could go to your computer and fix it. But I'm going to show you a trick that I do all the time that I don't think a lot of people know about, which is the HD Vive and the Oculus allow you to toggle and see your desktop. So I'm going to go ahead and try to manipulate Revit just using the HD Vive headset and controllers. Okay, so the first thing I want to do, because a lot of times I do this when I'm alone, is I need to turn off this slab. So I'm going to actually toggle back over to my desktop. And these are actually like my mouse and my keyboard. So I can zoom into the model. Can you see I'm zooming in? I can zoom in and out of the model. I can actually select through filter, can filter this out. So what I'm doing is I'm just using the HD Vive controller to basically isolate selection the slab, and then I can just basically come over here, see if I can get it, and then I can hide my floor slab. Do you see that? I just hid the floor slab and I didn't even need to get out of the HD Vive. And then basically the floor slab was hidden. Does everyone see that? Bill, could you see that?
Yep, we see it.
You there? Okay, awesome.
Yep.
So now I don't have to tell my friend, I can just do it. But these things are super powerful, amazingly powerful. You can actually go ahead and manipulate your Revit model. So I'm going to make an attempt to fix this beam using my controllers. Now, this doesn't have to be a beam. It could be a window or anything else. But remember, these are mice, and you have access to your desktop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to position myself over there with that rogue beam. See if I can turn it. Get over there. So I have to teleport. All right, there it is. Okay. The ICU beam, right? You see it? That's actually a kicker. It needs to be up aligned with that one. So I'm going to flip back over to my Revit model, and I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to fix it. All right, let's do this. Whew. Here we go. Grab the end of the beam. Oops. Do it again. Okay. Grab the end of the beam. Let's see here. See if I can get it. There we go. I get it? And by the way, I did this super quick when I was. Yep. I did this.
So
I did this super quick when everyone wasn't looking. But yep. Anyway, you get the idea. Come on now. I'm gonna get it, Bill. You keep talking.
Yeah. So Angelo, speaking of this, Marcelo, Angelo is saying like we need a VR controller for Revit. Like, yes, you can do it, and it looks like you got it. Got it moved up?
Yeah, I got it.
Yep.
I got it. Yeah. Okay, so there was a question. Let's hear it. What was the question?
Yeah, so Angelo was just saying like we need a VR controller made for Revit. Do you think like that would probably help that situation, or do you find that the HTC controllers are pretty intuitive, Marcelo?
The HD Vive controllers are very intuitive. We're at the beginning of our presentation. I'm going to show you how it gets a lot easier. But it would be better if there was a bit more control with the HD controllers. Right now, you only have laser control, but I'm going to show you other programs like Tilt Brush where you're allowed to actually grab the elements and rotate them into place. But it would be great to have that kind of functionality within Revit. So let's talk about that for a minute, which is kind of a segue into what I want to get into, which is the industry right now is focused on visualization. So you have the ability to make changes, but they're not the greatest in the world. But you can make small changes, and I quite honestly I do this all the time, kind of in a quality control mode, not so much in a full modeling mode as working with Revit at this point in time. But I hear that that's changing, and there's programs out there that do allow you to do some manipulation, and I'll get into that in a little bit. Does that answer that question? Bill?
I think so. So there's another person, John's asking, can you control the Revit model with Oculus Touch controllers or just the Vive?
That's a good question. They work a little differently. I haven't been able to do it, but I'm not the Oculus expert. We might have to get someone else to chime in on that, because what the HD Vive controller doubles as is the mouse, and so it doesn't work like that 100% like the like the Oculus, but I challenge the listeners to do that. Also, what you can do when you're in the virtual reality environment is you could toggle this and you get the keyboard. So a lot of times if I need to make a change, so basically the model's already built, I'm in quality control, I need to make a change. A beam needs to be moved from 1 foot to 2 foot. I can actually select on the beam and switch over and select onto the dimension, and then I can actually then click this trigger, and then I get the keyboard, and then I can then type in the number and then hit enter. So there's a lot of things you can do with at the moment with this, but really I'd recommend it for stuff that's already built. If you're using Revit and some other visualization tool, I don't have time to go into it, but there's others out there, like of course I mentioned Iris, but then also Fuser. There's Fuser. Fuser, you can do the same thing. Fuser does allow you to manipulate and move elements within the virtual environment, although it's not linked to your BIM data necessarily. So if you were to grab an element and pull it, you could certainly do that, but you don't have the ability to actually change the physical parameters like you would if you were just to use this on the Revit model that's sitting on your desktop. Revetso has a similar thing where you can do this virtual visualization. So what I'd encourage you, if you've done virtual reality before, I encourage you to flick over to your desktop and see how good you get with these controllers on the desktop, because it's extremely powerful. And I don't think I'm going to have time to go over it, but what is extremely powerful with this is to use Dynamo. And I use Dynamo all the time in virtual reality. So I'll be working, and then I'll be working in virtual reality, and usually I'll have Dynamo controlling some element in Revit. And then I can switch over and use Dynamo with these, because it's so easy to move a box and a wire in Dynamo with these. And so I actually use Dynamo using virtual reality all the time. It's kind of cool. So I encourage everyone to try that. Bill, I have a data set that has a lot of these examples, and but there's just no way we're going to get to all of them. I want to talk now about live. So let's move out of just kind of the visualization and what you can kind of trick with these. But I've saved dozens and dozens of hours already switching over to my desktop and not even pulling off the headset to make these kind of changes. And then you don't need someone there to help you, or you don't need to rip off the headset and then go to your physical keyboard because you have the access. Actually, if you want to geek out about it, I just bought a new game and I actually play it with the HD Vive. And there's other apps you can use called Big Screen, where you can actually put on the headset and you can see a huge theater screen in front of you, and then the monitor can be 300-400 inch monitor in front of you, and you have the ability to manipulate them and stuff like that. So I encourage everyone to think about your headset and how you can kind of push it to its limits and use it in a 3D environment, but even in a 2D environment, but one where you can use the controllers and have like a large screen in front of you, because it's really advantageous. I mean, you always want more real estate on your computer. All right, so enough of that. Let's move out of Revit and let's talk about some of the more powerful game engines out there. So what I didn't mention is all of this virtual reality is running on game engine technology. And one game engine technology out there that's pretty new to the game is called Stingray, and that also runs something called Live. So Autodesk Live is something you want to think about that would work similar to Enscape, but it has a lot of customization ability. So let's talk about Live and how that kind of plays into this whole virtual reality and how it is a bit different in some ways. Okay. So Live, I won't give you the full demo, but Live, just like where you send the model over to the game engine, it's right here. Can you see my screen, Bill?
Yep.
Okay. And so here it is, Revit. Go Live. Yeah, so you would take your Revit model and you'd hit this right here, Go Live. That would send your model up into the cloud. It takes a little while longer, but what it's doing is it's building all of your elements inside of the Stingray game engine. And then you get, and then you can open it up in the viewer, or what they call an editor. So let's get this fired up. And maybe at this point in time, Bill, we should see if there's any questions while I load this up.
Yeah, so this is actually good timing. So Angelo was saying that he hasn't been able to get the same quality on screen with Live that he has gotten with Inkscape tool. Have you experienced that, Marcelo, or do you know about that?
That's a good question. We'll have to ask the developers. I have not seen. Sorry, I just want to make sure. No, I have not. I can't say I've experienced that with the Live. No, we'll do some research on that, but I personally I haven't seen that. I have seen a difference with Unreal. Unreal seems to do a slightly better job with realistic with the realism for the materials than Live, but I would personally seen it to be comparable, Live and Stingray. Okay, so basically you upload to Live, and then you get, this is a sample project, right? And I put in a bunch of extra goodies in here. Now you can't do that with Live, but you can do that with Stingray and then bring it into Live because it's the same game engine. I'm a Star Wars fan, so I've been practicing a lot with Star Wars. But anyway, I want to show you how this works. It's very similar. You go ahead and you fire up this one, which would be your virtual reality. And then it puts you in this, if you're way up high, it puts you into this cart. Let me jump back in real quick. Okay, so I want to show you some of the differences with Live. There really are not a whole lot of differences from a visualization standpoint. Can you see my controllers?
Yeah,
you get the ability.
We see your controllers. And I want to mention too, like I want to mention some people are asking about the lag. There will be a little bit of lag just because we're doing video. But what Marcelo is experiencing is completely streamlined. So his quality in the headset is going to be much better than what you guys see. So if you guys just give us a little bit of grace on that, there is a little bit of lag because it's a go-to meeting and we're streaming a video over that. But that's resolved when you're actually using it yourself, just to let you guys know.
Thank you, Bill.
Yep.
All right, so you know, comparing apples to apples on a visualization standpoint, there's not a whole lot of difference with Enscape and what you would get with Live, or quite honestly, really with any product. One thing that's really nice about Live is it allows you to, of course, you can teleport. Let me get over there into the room, right? But it's linked with your bin data. I'm not necessarily favoring one or over the other, but one thing that's really nice about Live, and Iris also has this too, is you get this mini map. This mini map, actually, quite honestly, is really what I use for Live. Is you have the ability to do, you have the ability to move the model, and you're able to scale it and zoom in and zoom out. And this becomes really, really good because when you want to see the model as a whole, especially as a structural, we love to look underneath the building and see the footings. Of course, this one doesn't have any. But you could see, you could just immerse yourself in there rather easily. You have the ability to move things back and forth and you know, put your head in and move around, and it's extremely powerful in that regard. It does auto pull the roof off for you, although I understand they're probably working on that. And the ability, right now there's no ability to toggle anything on and off, but you can teleport from the mini model, you know, into somewhere else. Okay, so now we're inside the model. What's nice too about Live, because it's linked to the game engine, is you can animate your entourage. You can kind of see them moving. Yeah, you see his arm. And then also you have the ability to add extra things that you normally couldn't add. You have the ability to customize it. Can you see what I'm looking out at? I'm looking at the ACT, and I was able to animate it in Stingray and bring it in. And I'll go over that in a little bit. But then also I was able to bring in some of my Revit models. That's the telehandler I built in Revit. And then, of course, I actually built this ACT in Revit as well. And then there's Darth Vader over there, animated, that kind of thing. So you get the ability to customize, which is great. And I'll kind of go over that in a little bit. All right. Are there any questions about Live before we move on? Right now, Live doesn't allow you to float. You do have to stay grounded in reality. So I can't float up to that corner if I wanted to, like I could in Enscape. You know, I can't just float. You have to stay grounded in as you would in real life. All right. Bill, do you see any questions about this?
There's a couple questions coming up. We got about 7 or 8 questions. So Marcelo, I'll ask a couple questions, but you let me know when we need to move on, because we do have about 130 people on the line, so there's a lot of questions. So first one is, what are the prices for Enscape Live and the Unreal translators? Like, is there a price difference? Are they kind of close? No, can't hear you. Sorry guys, I think there's just a little bit of audio issues. So we're gonna have Marcelo dial back in, so I'll buy us a little bit of time. There is some questions in here. People are asking about the Magic Leap one. I'm curious if you guys have used that while we're waiting for Angelo to come back on, or Marcelo to come back on. Have you guys used the Leap one at all? Just curious. You guys can populate that into the chat window. So no, I haven't used that. I don't know if they're available yet. It'd be interesting to see how those work. What about the HoloLens? We didn't talk about the HoloLens yet. I have used the HoloLens myself. I'm curious, have you guys used the HoloLens at all? That one was kind of interesting for me. I was looking at a SketchUp model, and
okay, can you hear me now?
I had with the, yep, we can hear you now.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Yep. So we were just talking. I was trying to buy you some time. We were talking about the HoloLens and my experience with it. We didn't talk about that yet, but I was just talking about the field of view is a little shorter. You know, and
it is, and that's
the first one.
Yeah, and that's why we called it virtual reality, not augmented reality, because that would be a whole nother conversation.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely would. All right, so are we getting questions? Because I want to move on to some other things we talked about. So what I really want to encourage people to try is your HD Vive on the screen. Big Screen is one of the apps out there that allows you to do that, and I use Dynamo on that all the time on my big theater screen. Also, Google Earth. Google Earth does a really good job with that. In fact, why don't we ask Bill? Could we ask how many people have used Google Earth in virtual reality? Because this is actually a big part of our workflow in the office. And I'll go ahead and do a little tiny demo here. See if I can get live.
Definitely. So have you guys used Google Earth yet with virtual reality? Mostly no's. We got a couple yeses. Nolan or Cillian said that he has. Brian says he has. John Young said he has used it. So a couple of them, maybe like about 10 or 15%, I would say have used it. Others have not. I think this is a pretty cool example.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it up here. See if I can do it.
They want to know if the Street View app counts.
You'd think. You know, my Google Earth is not coming up. I don't know why. Boy, that's not. It says it's running. Let me try to. Oh, I see. Give me one. Okay. Give me 1 second. I got to go talk to it. Sometimes Sometimes the app you have to kill it. Yeah, sometimes the app you have to kill it in the.
And I'm curious. Well, I'm gonna just ask. So while Marcelo's opening that, I have one other poll I wanted to ask everyone: is how many times have you seen Marcelo speak? Have you ever seen him speak at a conference or read his blog, listened to his podcast, watched him in a webinar? You guys better be picking that one. Or had the pleasure of meeting him in person?
You make up that poll? Oh, my goodness.
I did. So about 46% have seen him at the conferences, 50% read his blog, 35% listened to him podcast. We should be getting 100% on the webinar unless you guys are checking your email or Facebook during this. And then 35% have met him in person. So cool.
Okay.
All right.
Great.
How's Google Earth coming?
Good. I got it. I had to kill it. Sometimes you have to go in virtual reality and then close it there. So I had to do that. But it's we're all good. We're all up and running. Can you see my screen again, or do I need to share it?
Yep. Nope.
You can see my screen. Okay. Perfect.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to show you. I mean, the obvious thing, of course, is that Google Earth now has virtual reality support, although it's technically different than what you would get on your desktop. You can't go to your desktop and then click VR. You have to go to the Steam site and then grab it there. And someone could chime in if it has Oculus support. I'm not 100% sure about that. But I want to show you the super awesome coolness that it brings. I mean, of course, you can do the visualization, you can do the street views, but Google Earth has an amazing, amazing database of information that is super crazy and amazing. So we do a lot of our work in Los Angeles, if I could find it. How embarrassing. Now I can't find it on the world. Come on now. Oh, wait a minute. What is going on here? Oh, here we go. Ah, there it is. Okay. So we're gonna head out to the map, and it works very similar to Google Earth, right? I mean, it is Google Earth, but on your app. I mean, excuse me, on your desktop. What's amazing is you have the ability to mark places, that kind of thing. Okay. Now, where are we going? We're going to here, Los Angeles. I just want to show you some of the cool things. We'll fly into downtown, and you have the ability to move yourself in, and then fly in, and you can sit yourself right down. Or you can go to, it might be kind of choppy on your end, but you can see all the skyscrapers, right? I mean, I can keep zooming in. Wait. Give me a second, Bill.
Audio came out.
Okay, you there?
Yep, we hear you.
Are you there? Okay, perfect. Yeah, I knocked it out.
You're good.
All right. So here's the thing with Google Earth is there's this beautiful, rich database of stuff, and you can see it, but you can't really do anything else, right? One thing that I've been working on is being able to take some of this 3D data and using it for presentations outside of Google Earth. So there are programs out there if you want to take like a screenshot or a few screenshots around the building as you rotate or move yourself around them. Let's see how we rotate. This is how you rotate. You can then create 3D images out of just rotating the model and taking a few screenshots, and then you can build up kind of a rough 3D model of your Google Earth area if you want to do that. So it's something that it's something to kind of consider because this data that you're standing in, all this beautiful 3D information, you can't quote unquote export out of Google Earth, and sometimes you want to have that in another 3D program. So okay, are there any questions about that? I mean, I could.
Yeah, so we got a couple questions.
Yeah,
one about Google Earth. They want to know, can you bring in your Revit model to Google Earth in VR and experience your Revit model in that context?
Currently, you cannot. Currently, you cannot in Google Earth VR because it's a separate program than just than just Google Earth. You could for Google Earth, but not Google Earth VR. I should do a little more research on that to find out if there's any development in that direction. I don't know. Maybe some of the other listeners could chime in on that. But I can't tell you what the future holds for that, unfortunately. But that is a very good question, because that would be super amazing to see your building, your project inside of virtual reality in Google Earth. Yeah, that would be great. Okay, yeah. So that's Google Earth. I think that's really amazing. Mm-hmm.
And then one other question I wanted to ask, because this has come up a couple times in the chat window, is people want to know, like, what kind of computer setup do you need to operate with these goggles and with the whether it's Lumion or Google VR? Like, is your laptop beefed up pretty good over there?
The laptop I'm using is beefed up. It's a gaming laptop. That's usually the minimum spec. You could go onto Steam and they can run a test on your system to tell you exactly where your system will fall within the requirements. Like, here's the minimum and here's the max. Okay, there we go. Here's the minimum and here's the maximum, and then where you are. You know, you're ahead or you're behind or you're in the middle of it, and it'll give you a good idea. So I had a laptop before this one that I would just present with, and I ran that test, and it was way behind. And then, but it would still run VR, but it would be very clunky and buggy. And then I got this one, and the specs were way above. This is a main gear. I don't know all the specs, but I can post that. We can post that, Bill, on some of the when you put this webinar up, you can get that information. But just in general, you do need a beefier system to do it. Yeah, particularly a graphics card, because the VR headset is running off of the graphics card. Okay, so I want to show you. Okay, so we went over visualization. We went over how to make manipulation using the desktop, and I encourage you to try that more, because I think the community will come up with some really amazing things. I've got some things I'm working on too. And then I showed you Google Earth, and then now I want to talk about some of the modeling you can do using virtual reality, and then we'll talk about how that relates to game engines. There's something called Tilt Brush out there, and then Oculus has its equivalent. I can't remember the name right now, but it allows you to draw and model to some extent in virtual reality. And I use this quite honestly all the time to do mock-ups. So let me show you how it works. It's super cool. Okay, I better be good and turn this thing off using the headset. Okay, so let me get this thing turned off. Okay.
While you're doing that, Marcelo, I wanted to let everyone know we're getting a lot of questions, and obviously we can't answer all the questions. But what I'm going to do, if it's okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to post a post on our forum on our website. And if you want, after this, post your question there, and hopefully Marcelo and myself, and we'll try to execute and answer some of those questions for you guys. So we won't be able to get to all of them, but I'll try to post them up there, and then that way you guys can at least get an answer to some of those, because I know we got a lot of content to go through. Just want to let you guys know that.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. Okay, Bill, if you think it's important, go ahead and ask me. I am going to jump into something that I'm excited about this stuff. We're moving into the third act, which is super amazing, awesome stuff. This would be, I suppose, Act 2. Let me get this. Can you see?
Marcelo? Can you double check your connection for your headset? It sounds just a little staticky on my side. I don't know if everyone else is hearing that, but maybe
you mean my sound?
Plug-in. It may not be in the phone all the way. Yeah, it's staticky a little bit.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. There we go. I think that's better.
Is that a little better?
Yeah, other people are people are hearing it too. It's pretty staticky.
Ah. Okay, I'm gonna have to switch to speaker.
Okay. Speaker? Okay. Yeah, that's better.
I don't know what's going on.
We gotta love technology, man. All of this. We're working with cell phones. We're working with a VR headset. We're working with the go-to software. We got a lot of technology going on.
Yeah, and I've got about 7 windows and 3 screens, what you don't see. Can you hear me, Bill? I'll kind of shout. Can you hear me?
Yep, we hear you. You're good. You sound better.
Better? Okay. All right. So what we're looking at is, I guess I have 2 things up. You can choose.
I have two things. You should probably look at this one. This is Tilt Brush. Tilt Brush is basically a 3D drawing program. Basically a 3D drawing program, right? You can draw stuff, but what's really cool about Tilt Brush, what's really cool, you see that? I mean, I just drew that, right? But what's really cool about Tilt Brush is it allows you to bring in 3D models. Okay, so I'll lay out a lot of bolts and nuts and connections using Tilt Brush, but you can do other things. Like I tried to come up with an architectural example where I brought in a roof and some roof crickets, and then you can place your roof crickets. So just as a proof of concept, do you see you have a palette like this? It's really intuitive, and this is your pointer. Can you see this? Under More, you have you can import libraries, and there's a folder in Tilt Brush, and it takes .obj files, and I just exported them as OBJ files. But I have a roof here. Okay, so this allows you to click. Can you see? This is my roof. This was actually the roof that you saw that I turned off in the model. Can you see this roof? This would be a roof with some chimneys on it. Do you see that? And these would be like little dog houses sitting over with stairwells. You know, I guess this would be the stairwell, right? And you have the ability to do a straight edge too. You know, if you really want to be artistic, and you can change all this. I won't geek out about Tilt Brush because it's very artistic, but you get the idea. But what's really nice is you can pull and scale this, and then if I wanted to, I can place my roof crickets. Where'd it go? Here it is. Like here's a roof cricket, right? I could place these down, and I could scale them, right, and all this stuff. So I have the ability to do this and lay things out. You can copy this, and then you can bring in another one and move it around and scale it. But I quite honestly use Tilt Brush all the time. And then in terms of once you get your things set up right, it's a touch limiting for exporting. But what they're working on right now is the ability to export everything you see. Right now, it only exports the physical lines that you draw, not the things that you brought in. But that's just going to be right around the corner. So you can export this as another OBJ, or it comes out as an FBX file, and then you can put that in your 3D modeling program. And then a lot of times I'll use this for a markup tool at the office, to look at things and mark things up. Particularly in our office, we have to do a lot of structural modeling, structural analysis modeling, and it requires you to really zoom in close to certain things. And then you can lock this down. This is kind of a simple example, but you get the idea. This is extremely powerful. And there's other programs out there that do things like this. There's one called Meshmaker that allows you to put nodes and meshes, nodes and triangles. It allows you to bring in models too. I won't go through the whole demo of that, but does everyone kind of get the idea of that? I mean, because I bring in, so you can delete all this stuff. I mean, I've got a bunch of stuff in here, but it'll bring in just about any complex model. Where'd it go? Brought in, right? Look at this one. Built this in Revit. See? Of course, that's Star Wars fan in me, right? And then you can accessorize it or whatever you want to do. Right? Pretty cool. Then you have the ability to do screenshots on here too. You have the ability to record videos and send it up to YouTube, all that kind of stuff. But I think there's a real promise in the industry with this kind of software. And I use this all the time, and I'll take screenshots, or I'll be collaborating with someone on our team, and yes, move that there, move this here, particularly around like connections and on stuff that's like on a micro level to get things set up like a beam, and then the rebar, we lay it out in 3D, and we take screenshots of it, that kind of thing. So it's really ways to get your hands involved. And this is kind of the lower end of things that you can do to manipulate. On the higher end, you can use the game engines, and that's what I want to show you next. Can you still hear me, Alan? Bill? Okay,
yep,
this is Act 3. Okay. So let me show you something really cool. It's called Stingray. It's Autodesk's latest game engine, and I'll be teaching a few classes on it this year. But I wanted to show you basically a sample of how it works. So maybe, Bill, can you poll everyone and find out how many people have actually used like a AAA game engine? That would include Unreal, Unity, Crytek, Stingray. It would probably be those.
Yeah. Have you guys? Can you guys set up the chat window with Marcelo's question? Have you guys used any of those game engines before? Bill DeVex says he has not, but he's used AAA batteries before.
Oh. Well, okay.
I like Bill.
Well, you're a crazy guy.
Funny. Okay, so a lot of people saying they've used Unreal.
Cool.
Only used Stingray. Stingray and Unity.
Good.
Lumion,
okay, so
Inkscape, Unreal, Stingray.
Good. Okay, so let me demo Stingray really quick. It is basically like a game engine, very similar to Unreal. You've got the launcher, and then you've got the ability to open your projects. You do have the ability to bring in live projects, so you can bring it from Revit to live and then into Stingray, because live is basically just the Stingray engine. And what I did while it's opening is it basically is a game engine. So what I did was I took certain elements in the Revit file, and I made them what we call actors through some flow nodes, and I'll show you that in a second. It's a lot like Dynamo. And then you have the ability to take these and manipulate them, and you'll be able to move things around, be able to paint things like that becomes extremely interactive in virtual reality. It's super cool. So let me see if I can get that open just a few minutes we have left. And I'm not going to have time to go over it, but Unreal is really the same way. It has the ability to jump into virtual reality and be able to manipulate and move things around and shift them. Are there any questions while I work on opening this up about that?
They say, can you bring 3ds Max file into Stingray?
That's a good question. If you want to compare apples to apples with Stingray and Unity and Unreal, you can't say there's a whole lot of differences, except Stingray has, since it's an Autodesk product, it has extremely good connectivity with 3ds Max and Maya and Motion Builder. And so you can literally take your entire scene from Max and bring it into Stingray. You could even have one-to-one camera movement. You can take one asset and update it, and it uses the 3ds Max engine. That's true for animations. That's true for anything. So Stingray has been extremely helpful in that regard with its tie back with Maya and Max, and that's quite honestly its major power. Yeah.
Good. Someone is Angela's asking if you want to host your pre-baked models on your website for clients to navigate in VR. How would you do that?
If you want to do pre-baked models and put them, okay, that's a good question. So we're talking about deployment. There's two types of deployment. One that is visualization. So that would be like Enscape. Enscape does allow you to, and Fuser and Revit, so does allow you to create separate executable files that if you would send it to someone, they would be able to open your model, and they don't need that software. They don't need Enscape to open it up, and then they just need to do the toggle, and then they can get right into virtual reality. And the same thing with Live. Live, you're able to through the editor, you're able to send it out to a desktop or to a Windows iPad, and then you download a viewer, and then you're able to view the live model that way. Well, it's very comparable to Enscape in that regard. You know what's happening is my model's upgrading because Stingray just got upgraded, unfortunately. But I feel good. I think we'll get it open before we finish. But just to give the punchline away in case we don't have time, what I did inside of Stingray is, did you see that live project we walked around with? We saw tables and chairs and desks and lamps, and AT-ACT, the Death Star in the background, all of that becomes manipulable, where you can actually take things and move them around, rescale them, push pull them, like we did in Tilt Brush. And you have the ability to move things around and reshape them, and you could change if you have. My example I was going to show was you had in a particular room, it was a break room. You had the tables and chairs. You could then rearrange them into theater seating. You can do different design scenarios, that kind of thing. I quite honestly use Stingray for remodeling structure. So I'll physically take structural beams and I'll place them, because it does have real-time physics, and that's what's really important. And I place the beams, and then I'll place the roof and things like that to see if things will fit. But I use these in virtual reality to do it, and it's really immersive and scale it. And because it's immersive, you can see the scale, and it's really helpful to see problems and lay things out pretty quickly. One thing, because we're running out of time, one thing I want to conclude with, this might not open, but is kind of where we want this going. Right now, virtual reality is great. You can do visualizations, real mature. You can do some manipulation. You can do some modeling. You can do some modifications. One thing that the industry needs to do, and I've been talking with some of the developers on this, is to get more of our building information data into those game engines. Now, right now, you can view them, right? So, for example, if you go to Stingray or Fuser or any of the others, quite honestly, and you bring your Revit model in, you can click on a wall in that environment and you can see all the data. But it's almost read-only. I mean, there's parameters we set up, things like that are not, there's not really a one-to-one relationship. And as we move forward, it would be great to see more applications bring in the real BIM data, not just read-only BIM data, but BIM data that's not a snapshot in time, one that you can change parameters and it's tied with your Revit model, so it actually moves it and changes it accordingly. And then have the ability within our modeling editors to be able to use these, because this is extremely powerful. Right now in Revit, we can't use these in a virtual environment. We can't do it in 3ds Max or any others. I'd argue Iris, I think, is working on a lit too, and then Unreal also has a VR editor, which is pretty good. So as I think as we get more and more experience with VR, we're going to be looking beyond just what we can see, but we want to be able to do things where we can actually touch, and that's what I wanted to give you a little glimpse in today, and what we can do with the touch and interaction. But there's still some ways. There's some ways to go. There's some ways to go on that. You know what, Bill? We're going to need to do a separate class on Stingray, because fortunately I'm not able to get that down open today. I think it's mad because there's too much going on.
That's all right. So what I want to do is, because I'm going to transition real quick, if that's okay. We do have quite a few questions. I'm gonna show my screen real quick, if that's okay. Let's see here. Make sure I'm showing the right side. And I think, Marcelo, your side's still a little staticky, but that's okay.
Okay.
So let's see. Make sure I'm sharing my right screen. Okay. So real quick, I want to transition to just let you guys know, like with a lot of these questions, we do have a forum. And in that forum, you can post your questions. It's totally free. So like if you guys have questions, you can post it. It's a community of being able to have other people answer. We're going to be posting some free add-ins. There's videos in our newsletter. What I want to do is show you guys that I did just post while Marcelo was chatting to ask your VR question from the webinar. So if you want, you can go ahead and post some of your questions out there, and that is available for you guys if you guys do have questions. We are at 1 o'clock. I hope this is insightful. I know we had a few technical challenges and a few issues, but I really hope it was beneficial for you guys. I certainly learned a lot. I have to say, like, my favorite part was probably the Tilt Brush and the Google Earth. I thought those were really, really cool. So I want to thank Marcelo for presenting today. This is awesome. We're going to record this and upload it, so that way if you guys want to share with those at your firms, bring this knowledge back to those, blow people's minds in the office. So with that, we want to say thanks for attending, and if you guys have questions, just ask the forum, okay? Thanks, Marcelo. Do you have any closing
Okay,
thoughts,
thank you.
anything you want to say?
No, I think I summarized it already. I think I summarized it at the end there before you took over. Yeah, Bill and I will go through the questions, and then there definitely needs to be a part 2 with this. I think involving Stingray and Unity, and then how we move forward with real manipulation and real time physics, because that part we didn't quite go over yet.
Definitely, that sounds awesome. And then if you guys are interested, we also have another one. If there's a topic you guys want to hear about, we do have this webinars idea. So feel free to add other topics that you guys want to learn about for webinars in the future. So we really enjoy doing this and giving back. So with that, you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll be talking to you soon. Thanks, guys.